Isaac Asimov believed something most people don't. He believed that puns are the highest form of humor. Not the lowest, not the cheapest, the highest. And that sounds completely wrong. Puns are the jokes people apologize for, the ones that make you groan, look away, and say, "That was terrible." So why would one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century defend them? Isaac Asimov was not just a writer, he was a biochemist, a historian of science, a thinker who wrote nearly 500 books across almost every field of human knowledge. Through works like Foundation, he imagined the rise and fall of civilizations on a galactic scale. In I, Robot, he reshaped how we think about artificial intelligence, introducing the 3 laws of robotics and turning robots into philosophical problems rather than monsters. His work was built on one core ability, the ability to see connections between ideas, between systems, between things that do not obviously belong together. And that is exactly what a pun does. A good pun does something very specific. It connects 2 meanings that should not be connected, and it does it instantly. For a brief moment, your mind holds 2 interpretations of the same word, and then suddenly they collapse into one. That moment, the shift, is the joke. The groan that follows is not failure. It is the sound of recognition. Because a pun is not just wordplay. It forces you to recognize multiple meanings, hold them simultaneously, and resolve the tension between them, all in a fraction of a second. And that act is not trivial. It is pattern recognition, the same cognitive process that allows a scientist to see a hidden relationship in data or a mathematician to recognize structure in abstraction. In this sense, a pun is a tiny act of insight, a compressed moment of understanding. Puns are often dismissed as the lowest form of humor, too easy, too obvious, too dependent on coincidence. But this criticism misunderstands what's actually happening. A pun feels cheap, not because it lacks intelligence, but because it delivers its insight too quickly. There is no build-up, no narrative delay, no emotional framing, just an immediate collision of meanings. And because the connection appears instantly, we mistake speed for simplicity. But speed is not the absence of thought, it is the compression of it. A pun is what insight looks like when it happens all at once. Asimov didn't just think about humor, he lived it. In 1949, a young Asimov went to a job interview at Pfizer. He waited for 4 hours. When he was finally seen, he was treated with indifference and dismissed. At the time, he was unknown. The moment passed, or so it seemed. Years later, Asimov became a literary phenomenon. Hundreds of books, global recognition. Then one day, Pfizer invited him back, this time as a guest speaker. They offered him $5,000. He said, "I'll do it for $6,000. They asked why. He told them about the 4-hour wait. The extra $1,000 wasn't payment. It was the punchline. A joke structured not over seconds, but over a decade. Setup, delay, resolution. The same logic as a pun, just stretched across time. Asimov loved jokes that lived at the boundary between humor and knowledge. Consider this limerick. There was a young lady named Bright who traveled much faster than light. She set out one day in a relative way and came back the previous night. At first, it sounds like nonsense, but it isn't. It's a joke about relativity. If something could travel faster than light, it would violate causality. Cause and effect would reverse. You could arrive before you left. The humor and the physics are not separate. They are the same idea expressed in 2 different languages. The joke works because the science is real. Or consider a simpler story. A man walks into a bar and orders a martini. Before drinking it, he removes the olive and places it in a jar. He orders another and another. After an hour, the jar is full of olives. He gets up to leave. The bartender asks, "What are you doing?" He replies, "My wife told me to bring home some olives." From one perspective, this is perfectly logical. He was given a task, he completed it. From another perspective, it is absurd. There was already a jar of olives behind the bar. What makes the joke work is that both interpretations are valid at the same time. The humor lies in the collision, not between right and wrong, but between two internally consistent ways of seeing the same situation. Asimov understood that the best humor does more than entertain. It reveals something. Consider a story attributed to Socrates. Socrates walks through a marketplace examining expensive goods. A friend asks, "What are you so interested in things you never buy?" Socrates replies, "To see how many things there are that I don't need." The joke works on more than one level. On the surface, it's a gentle jab at consumerism, but underneath is something deeper. It doesn't teach us anything new. It reveals something we already know and would rather ignore, that we are surrounded by things we want but do not need. And that recognition is what makes it funny, not mockery, but self-awareness. We laugh because we see ourselves in it. Asimov loved this kind of humor because at its best, the joke is not just a clever twist of words. It's a moment of recognition, a moment where something familiar suddenly becomes visible. And in that moment, humor and insight become the same thing. Asimov didn't just tell jokes, he preserved them. In Isaac Asimov's Treasury of Humor, he collected hundreds of jokes, anecdotes, and limericks. It wasn't just a collection, it was a system, a way of understanding humor itself. He categorized, annotated, and explained what made jokes work. He treated humor not as something trivial, but as something worthy of study, something structured, something meaningful. Even during difficult periods of his life, he turned to humor not as escape, but as a way of organizing experience, a way of finding patterns in chaos. In the end, Asimov's defense of the pun was not really about jokes. It was about thinking. A pun is not just a play on words. It's the moment where the mind recognizes two incompatible meanings and realizes they're the same. That flash, that instant of recognition is the essence of insight. And that is why the groan matters. Because when a joke makes you groan, it means your brain just did something unexpected. It made a connection it wasn't prepared to make. Asimov didn't just write stories. He revealed a way of seeing that intelligence is not only found in complexity but in connection. That humor is not the opposite of seriousness but one of its purest expressions. And that even the simplest joke can contain a moment of genuine understanding. So the next time you hear a pun and feel that instinctive groan, pause for a moment, because what you just experienced was not a failure of humor. It was a success of thought, and for a brief instant, you are thinking like a scientist. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.